So finally, what I wanted to talk about is the Manager Hall of Fame. Obviously, Ferguson and Wenger have both been inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Rightly so.
Yep, I agree. Both of them should be in there. But then, what I was thinking is, with those two, they've obviously set a precedent in the Premier League. What they achieved over their Premier League careers was amazing. What what is the criteria, do you think, for a manager to make it into the Hall of Fame?
So I
So,
think
uh,
that it's obviously you've got your main ones winning titles and dominating. But if you only picked managers that have won titles or dominated it at the top of the league, then your Hall of Fame is actually only that not got many people in.
Yeah, it's a very short
So
list.
I think you've got to have people that were like, if you look at what Sean Dyche did for Burnley while he was in the Premier League and things like that, or the fact that Steve Bruce has managed, like, is it 1,000 games or something ridiculous, and a
yeah.
lot of them being Premier League games. You got to look at people like that and go, well, actually, he might not have been at the top end of the table, but he's had a ridiculous career as a Premier League manager.
Yes,
Like, I don't think you can only, I don't think criteria can only be based on what you've won. I think it has to be based on what, like, how many games you've managed in the league, how many teams you've managed in the league, like how far up the league you've taken smaller clubs. Like, Burnley's success can't be measured in the same success as Man United, which means that Sean Dyche's success can't be measured in the same way that you measure Alex Ferguson's success. What Sean Dyche did at Burnley, I think, is as impressive as winning a Premier League with Man United. Taking Burnley to Europe is like winning the league with Man United.
yeah. So I think when I saw about the Hall of Fame, like the first two managers that came to my mind was Harry Redknapp and Sam Allardyce. So I was thinking more about sort of the personalities, and then you look at the histories of, like, for example, Allardyce, what he'd done at Bolton, and obviously Harry Redknapp has been around quite a few different clubs in the Premier League. He's been there managing so many games, clubs like Tottenham, West Ham, so on and so forth. But then from the opposite side, I agree with what you were saying, Paul. If you actually went by Premier League winners, you actually don't have that many when you think about it.
I think there's a couple of other aspects as well that you got to think of. So when you think of Wenger and Ferguson, so Ferguson was there for what, 26 years, 27 years or something, and Wenger was there for like 22 or 23 years. Like, and it kind of goes back into Paul's argument earlier about management's getting sacked in a certain window. But to have a manager to be at a club for that long is an achievement in itself. And yes,
Yeah,
like their achievements, Wenger went invincible, he won 3 titles, etc. Ferguson won 13, etc., etc. But even if you just was at a club now for 25 years and you finished 8th every season, like that for me is a big achievement.
But yeah, definitely. Like when you look in the Premier League now, I think Jurgen Klopp's the longest serving manager at 7 years. So
But
I think the days of
yeah,
like the Ferguson style 27-year career, I think they're gone. It's 20 one club, that is. I think those days are
yeah.
gone. I don't.
yeah, because managers aren't given time anymore.
Yeah. Um. What do you think, Matty? What would you set the criteria to be for a manager to get into the Hall of Fame?
I think what Paul said. Like, obviously, if small clubs can't be compared to the elite clubs because it's just different. Trying to keep a small club afloat in the Premier League when you're fighting against the likes of Man City, Arsenal, Man U, all those with money, it's got to be hard. And you're starting all these players that have never had Champions League experience or anything like that, and they're still battling and finishing 8th or 7th. That's really good going.
Yes, but in terms of winning like titles, would you put people like Pellegrini in there and Roberto Mancini?
Obviously, always winning titles is always going to get you inducted into a Hall of Fame, isn't it? Because that's what people look for. Well, Alex Ferguson's won like 27 or 28 odd trophies in his managerial career. 13 of them being Premier Leagues, and people, all of them are going to think, bloody hell, 13 Premier League titles.
I mean, do we class like Champions League titles in
No, it has to be. It's a
No,
Premier League
Premier
Hall of
League,
Fame,
yeah.
isn't it?
So
it
if
has
you're
to be
going by
based on-
that,
Yeah.
then there's no real difference between Jurgen Klopp and Claudio Ranieri.
Well, no,
Yeah.
exactly.
Total each, yeah.
But I think that Ranieri, that what he done with Leicester, like it's never going to be repeated. You would put Ranieri in there, surely.
What Ranieri did at Leicester, I think, is one of the biggest, not just footballing achievements, sporting achievements.
Yeah,
To
definitely.
take someone who barely survived relegation to win the whole thing, it's unheard of. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, I
There was
can't see
the
it
odds
happening
on
again.
it happening. There was better odds of finding Elvis alive than there was Leicester winning the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that, like, saying that, I understand what you're saying, Ben, from that point of view, but you definitely include Ranieri in there, surely.
But then when you compare him to Wenger and Ferguson that are in there, it's almost like, well,
I think if you're going to compare every manager to Wenger and Ferguson, no one else gets in there.
Yeah, they're in a league of
No,
their
true.
own. They're not in a. You can't. It's uncomparable.
but you just try and like find out what the variables are, though, aren't you? So like they've obviously put Wenger and Ferguson in there for what they've won.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I've got a list here of managers who have taken charge of the most Premier League games. Arsene Wenger is number one with 828 at Arsenal. Sir Alex Ferguson is 810 at Manchester United. Then you've got Harry Redknapp with 641, David Moyes with 621, Sam Allardyce, Steve Bruce, Mark Hughes, Jose Mourinho, Martin O'Neill.
Well,
Now, I think Steve Bruce, I'd put him in the Hall of Fame just on sheer teams that he's taken to the Premier League and then managed to keep in the Premier League. Same with Sam Allardyce. And what Moyes did for Everton and then did what he's kind of done at West Ham. It's hard to argue with. And Harry Redknapp goes in there not just on his, like, what he's done at West Ham and Portsmouth and Tottenham.
January sales.
He goes
He's-
with his jam
he's-
roly-polies, man.
He's a character, and he like
Yeah.
I think that's what I kind of thought when I thought about Hall of Fame, was more about the characters. Like, when you think of, like, Premier League managers, you think of the ones that stand out. Like, one of my favourite managers, even though I don't particularly like the teams he's managed, is Mick McCarthy, because I always liked his, like, post-game interviews and stuff like that. So I kind of always thought a Hall of Fame would be more about the popular sort of figures. But yeah, like, the two that I said both are in the most managed list as well. So that's quite good. So that kind of leads on to the next question of who do we think would be the next manager to be inducted into the Hall of Fame?
I think Pep is the only manager that can be realistically considered.
Well,
But
would
if you
you?
think about
Sorry, would
Jose
you?
Mourinho.
Would you put managers who are still managing into the Hall of Fame, or would it only be retired managers? Because obviously a player wouldn't get into the Player Hall of Fame until their career is finished. Would it not be the
True.
same for managers?
maybe, but I think even now you can pretty much start writing Pep's. If you think about it, obviously Wenger, for example, so he won 3 titles with Arsenal. Pep will double that in not even a third of the time.
Yeah.
Like it's such an amount. You can say what you want about Man City, about all the billions put in and all that kind of stuff, which it is a factor, but he's still done that, and is like, if he stayed at Man City for the same time that Wenger stayed at Arsenal, you're talking like probably 17, 18 titles.
Yeah.
Wenger did have to completely rebuild Arsenal.
Yeah.
He did, and I think Wenger also brought a different style into England, which
I think Wenger changed Premier League football.
yeah, he did, and I think a lot of people are probably grateful for that. We've gone from route one, long ball, deep defending, hard tackles to actually playing football. And I think a lot of teams model themselves off that.
That Arsenal side was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was crazy. That
Yeah.
season was unbelievable.
Although I do think, and I'm probably going to get a bit of stick here, the Invincibles played for too many draws towards the end of the season.
Well, I
It
think
doesn't
that.
really matter.
Yeah, I think that leads on to another debate. Like, what's more impressive, the Invincibles or Man United's treble?
Man United's treble, I think.
100%, yeah.
I
But
don't think anyone's going to replicate the Invincible, whereas I think the treble can be replicated.
I think the Invincibles would have been a lot better if, because I can't remember the exact stat, but I'm pretty sure towards the end of the season they drew like loads of games.
I think they did draw quite a few games that season, but I think the one thing that stands out for me is when I think Wenger said in an interview that the aim was to not lose another game, and I think Ferguson came out laughing about it and so on and so forth. And the fact that they went on and done it, I think even if they drew a lot of them, like it's still a brilliant achievement.
I'm looking at that squad now, and
They should have won a lot more.
It's actually insane, isn't it?
Philip Senderos is in there.
But I mean, like, you know, they only drew 12 all season, and yes, you can probably say it's quite high, but I mean, they substantially won the league. You know, like it wasn't close. It was like 11 points clear.
Yeah, but it could have been loads more.
Could have, but it doesn't really matter, does it?
So in their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games, they drew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But their last probably 5 games, they drew 3 of them. So they were going out not to lose. They weren't going out to win.
But it's like Man U only needed a point against Blackburn, and it was 1-1.
They drew against us. We drew with them. Right, so right.
Is that when Walter Pandiani scored? Was that the last game of the season?
No, it was 0-0.
No.
I think the one you're on about is Heskey scored right at the death, didn't he? And we beat him 2-1.
That's the one, yeah.
It was a good goal from Pandiani as well. I remember that one.
That's a great strike. That's why they called him the rifle.
So with 6 games left, they had Leeds. They beat them 5-0. They then went to Tottenham 2-2. They then went to. Then we had them at home, so they were playing Birmingham City at home, 0-0 draw. They then had Portsmouth away, 1-1. They then beat Fulham 1-0 and beat Leicester 2-1. They should have won every one of them games.
They should have, but I think you're scraping the barrel here.
I'm not. And then there's loads more in the start of the season. Like it's just them 5 games. They should have gone out and fucking smashed them all. I've ruined it. I've swore. They should have smashed. They should have smashed them and then put a right stamp on it.
Well, yeah, but I think if you've got the opportunity to suddenly go a season unbeaten, would you, like, if the league's already wrapped up at that point, you're going to win the league, is it not better to just go, you know what, there's something on here that's never going to be...
For me, not if you're just going to whimper over the line, no.
Okay. All right, well, we can carry this on. Ben, what do you think's a better achievement, Man United's treble or Arsenal's Invincibles?
I'd have to say the treble, if I'm being honest with you, but I don't think, like I just said, I don't think the Invincible is going to be repeated, whereas I do think the treble will be repeated.
Well, I think why has it not been, would be my question.
I think it's the way that Man U won the treble. That was more brilliant management from Ferguson.
So are you agreeing with the treble then, Matty, as well?
I just think the treble was just a great achievement, but obviously so is going unbeaten in a season. Like what Ben said, I don't think it's ever going to be done again.
I think you go out to win as many trophies as possible, don't you?
Yeah,
Arsenal won 1 trophy by going unbeaten. Man U won 3.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's...
Well, I mean, I think the treble is a better achievement, especially the way that Man U won the Champions League.
Champions League, yeah.
That was just like another level. So yeah, that kind of brings an end to